then I'm like, yeah. And then they're like, they're like, oh, cool. And I'm like, no, it's like a legit CD. Like, it's a legit. She raised like 15 grand to pay us.
Dang.
Like, we're going to record in Houston at like a really, really nice studio.
Oh,
For real.
Yeah. So.
How'd you hook that up?
And we met her at the opera.
Oh, okay. That's cool, man.
It's funny because
You guys are badass.
and I asked Carlton, I was like, do you have any plugs, anything you want to say? And he's like, check your oil.
Check your oil in your car.
Listen to your teacher or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stretch.
I mean, yeah, stretching is essential.
And he was like, I'm like, that's it? He was like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
And he didn't mention no CD.
And then he got up and left.
And he kicked us out.
He kicked us out.
Yeah, he was like, y'all leave.
Leave right now.
Going
to
SeaWorld.
SeaWorld. Live.
Let's do the intro live. Did you learn it? You probably took it up by ear, did you?
He just did it.
I just know that part.
D minor 6.
Yeah. Whichever way you want to do it.
Yeah. Like that
And
one.
then, I don't know what y'all do on the.
There are no L chords. There are no L chords. Nobody knows this chord except Noah.
I didn't even fucking know it. I was trying to play this shit, dude.
We had recorded like 10 times and I kept messing up.
It's too hot, though.
Is that true or not?
Yeah, I think we did it a good 30 times.
Why doesn't Matt have headphones? Oh, you do?
Yeah,
He
dude.
does. He just
I
says.
thought he did.
Yeah.
I thought he did it.
Nah, man, they mess up my hair, so I'm wearing a hat and everything.
So how many times have y'all actually had somebody like in the room with y'all when y'all interview?
A good amount, like what, like 8 or something.
We've had Alex here, Monica here, and at Matt's place we had Adolf there. I think those are the only in person.
No, it was more.
Well, I mean, it's because other people like Guzman and Carlton, we went to San Antonio.
Oh, yeah.
And the rest have been FaceTime on the iPad.
Cool.
And I connect that to this. And so we also do that here. But here in like this room, I guess just Adolf and Monica.
Yeah.
No,
Oh, well, I
Alex.
guess Luis and Alex.
Alex Mo.
So they've been in this huge, ginormous studio of yours.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the #1 studio in Central Texas too for podcasting.
Pretty big.
Dude, you should have seen it. It was worse. Like before, like this setup that he had, because he had to plug everything in. Like you had the computer too, which took up more room. This was different. Like you hardly had room on this.
Yeah, right now
desk.
this looks kind of jumbled up. It's just because a lot of cables. But before I had a different mixer. Oh, that's in the bag right there. I had a mixer, then a headphone amplifier, then I had to connect the computer, and it still had other microphones and cables to connect all that. So it would have taken up this entire table. Everything around it is just because I want it there, but literally like this is it. This is all I need.
Plus the table was flipped, right? It was like,
Yeah, the table is flipped.
so there was like
vertical.
less room.
I get what you mean. Like it was standing up.
Yeah, and now I have it this way.
Well, that's cool, man. I like it. I like the mics. I like how they're set up and everything.
Yeah, this is the evolution. of
Yeah,
Podcasting.
#1.
I feel like I'm on Joe Rogan.
We were poor.
That's the goal. I mean, he's in Austin now.
Yeah, I heard.
He's a $10 million mansion out in Westlake.
Yeah, and he's charging people to go see him.
Imagine doing a gig over there, dude.
We should go on Joe Rogan.
Just stand out there.
Like, hey, you want to be
You
on
want to be on the
podcast?
pod?
Ask him. We might have a producer coming up. Like, have a producer for the show, which would help a lot. We'll be able to do a lot more. We'd do video.
Who does the editing?
Chingon.
I do that.
You do all the editing by hand? You have to listen to like everything and cut out things in the middle.
Yeah, and I just sit on the side and cheer him on when I do it.
Matt's like, hey, where the fuck is the podcast?
Getting mad. The fuck's taking so long?
No, yeah. The editing was a bitch before. It would honestly take me, let's say, 4 hours to edit, another 3 hours to export the file, and then like another 4 hours to upload the file. So that's a lot of hours. But since I got the iPad, now editing takes me maybe 2 hours, exporting like 2 minutes, and uploading like 1 minute.
Oh, cool. That's pretty fast.
I'm gonna be done with school by then, dude. Fuck.
Yeah, Matt, by this time,
I'm still,
this
like, in
episode comes
shock.
out, Matt's gonna be already graduated, physical therapist for Dallas Cowboys.
Nice. They need it.
They need itching out.
Players keep getting hurt. All right, so this is episode 25 of Los Mariachi Sagas. We have our next guest here, somebody that we've, someone we've had in mind for a while. Matt kept telling me, "Hey, let's get him." I said, "Okay." So we're here with Vince, Vicente. What do you go by, Vince?
Vincent Pequeño.
Vincent Pequeño.
Yeah.
From San Antonio, Texas.
Born and raised.
Vince is a very good musician. He is actually in part of the group. So we had Carlton on a few weeks ago, probably a month ago. And so Vince is one of the people in the trio that Carlton went to the Houston Opera and played with. So Vince, where did the mariachi career start for you?
Well, I used to go to Catholic school when I was younger,
so
and
church.
I hated it. It wasn't for me. I didn't like religion, so they closed down, and I went to public school, and that's where I met Gino Rivera. He's from San Antonio.
Yeah,
he was at a middle school, so I didn't know any Spanish, and I had to take an elective, and they didn't let me in band. They were like, "No, you can't join band." So they shoved me in mariachi. And the first day of mariachi, he's like, "Who wants to learn guitarrón?" And for some reason, I thought that was Spanish for guitar. I didn't know. So I raised my hand, and he's like, "Great, you're going to learn this big bass." And I was like, "Okay, cool."
All right.
So that's how I learned the bass, by accident. And ever since then, like, people always tell me, like, "Oh, well, we can, like, teach you how to do it better." And I'm like, nah, I'm just going to play it how I play it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Seems to work real.
Yeah, but my guitar, I always wanted to play guitar for years, and then I finally learned on my own. I had lessons here and there with a lot of good teachers, but a lot of it was just going out there and playing, and then people would be like, "Hey, you're playing that wrong," or "Hey, stop playing that," or "Don't do this or this." And like after years and years of that, just yeah.
Well, so then you got to high school. What high school did you go to?
Sydney Lanier on the west side of San Antonio, with my alma maters being Mike Guzman, obviously,
That's right.
Henry Gomez, and Juan Ortiz from Campanas.
There's a lot of good mariachis that came out of Lanier.
Yeah.
Why?
Hopefully,
What's up with that area?
Hopefully, I can be like, "Oh yeah, I'm somebody good from Lanier."
You can be there someday. So there was a mariachi in Lanier?
Yes, but like it was just like a school group. It wasn't anything crazy. But the teacher at the time, his name was Ruben Velasquez, and I didn't want to play mariachi. I actually quit for like a year or two, and then after he left, that's when the other teacher, Carlos Reyes, who's very well known in San Antonio, he was the teacher there, and I was like, "Hey, I want to learn guitar." We're like, "Why not?" But he figured out that I played bass, and so I started going after school because there was, people that I knew, and he was like, "Come on in." So I went, I played, and then eventually he took me aside and he's like, "Hey, we need somebody to help at like the restaurant downtown." And I was like, "Oh, well, I think I can go." And my mom was like, "Yeah, you can go." So he lent me like black slacks and like a saco. And at 15, I was going down to the Riverwalk playing, I think I was playing guitar, and then I went to bass, and then I started just doing that like every weekend for like 6 years.
And the slacks, or did you finally get your?
No, I got traje. I got traje eventually, but so like, yeah, after I finished high school, I had this idea of, man, I'm gonna go to college and whatever. But obviously, from where I'm from, funds were a little tight. So it was like, well, I'm going to go to the river, make some money, then throw it at school. I did that on and off and on and off and on and off. So, I always tell kids, like, if go to college, but there's always going to be times where you want to take a break. And then for some people, like, you're just not going to go. You're just going to, like, do your own thing.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work for everybody, but it does work for some. But I always tell my kids, don't rely on it working. Like, oh, I'm not going to go to school, I can be successful. It's like, yeah, that does happen, but like, it's very rare,
Yeah, I think so.
Well, how were those first few weeks or months when you were playing at 15? Did they just kick your ass in there, and were they mean to you?
Yeah, of course. I mean, for like the first 5 years, everyone was super mean to me. I got like, stop playing. You're taking money from me. Like all this stuff. Like, okay, like, you don't know this song. You're not singing. You're not this. You're not that. Like, why are we taking you? And that happened throughout the years. Like just and then I would get calls here and there as a freelancer and somebody up and coming trying to join like all these groups, trying to get money. And then slowly it would become like, oh, well, we'd rather take this guy because we know him, or we'd rather take this person because they can sing, or this and that. So that's why I started singing. I didn't want to. I had to. So it doubles your value. And practicing was just like, I used to do this thing where I would get my iPod, the big chunky one, and I would put it in my pocket. And during our breaks at Talon, when they're asking the tables or like we're done, I would just put in a headphone, put like 700 songs of Mariachi Vargas on shuffle, and just take them out. Like each one, just doom, 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 doom.
Yeah.
And then randomly, I would just ask the charros downtown. I'd be like, hey, do you know El Gato Montes? And they'd look at me like, yes, but we don't play it. Like, it's very rare we play it. And I'm like, I just want to know it. Like, I just want to play it. Come on.
Yeah.
So they'd be like, sure, yeah, why not? So yeah, it was cool.
That was a lot of work.
Yeah, it was.
Think it would have been easier just to go to school?
No. I think I gained a lot of experience doing what I did, but school would have helped. Like, I could have done both at the same time. I just was not, like, I had tried going for like a semester, and then I'd stop, and then I tried going again, and it was too much of a hassle. So I just stopped. And then like recently I had started up again, but then the whole thing with the opera happened, and I was like, either go to the opera or go to school. And I was like, nah. So it happened.
Go to opera.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you've done pretty well without going to school.
Well, yeah, trying to.
Yeah, when you've had a lot of travel experiences and playing all over the place.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time we met, Vince?
The first time I met you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You were helping out the group that I was in San Antonio, and you were on guitar, right?
I was on Vihuela.
You were on Vihuela. That's right. And that was a good restaurant, but they went bankrupt or something.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
They like completely disappeared.
Oh man.
Like, we showed up to do like our planta, and they were closed.
What the fuck? They didn't let you know or anything?
Yeah, they didn't let us know at all. So
yeah, shitty.
But yeah, we had a lot of people come through that group. Like, a lot of people that I met from Laredo, from San Marcos, and then they would go their own way, but we kept in touch.
Yeah.
So that's how I know you. And then Matt, I met you randomly rehearsing it for a high school event or something. And we were rehearsing some songs, and you come in and you were like, "This is my vihuela." And
This is my.
we started playing it like all aggressively, and I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa,
Whoa.
What do you? And then he started playing next to me, and he was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I was like, "All right, cool, we're buddies now."
How old is Matt?
It was in 2018, so I was like 21, I think. Already.
Yeah.
You're 21.
Yeah, and then I saw the El Camino, and I was like, "Oh, nice."
You saw
Definitely.
Matt. Did you expect him to drive like a truck or it's, I don't know, like a big King Ranch or something?
No, I assumed he was gonna drive like a new Mustang or
A new
Charger
Mustang?
or something. And
I'm a sports car guy.
But then I saw the Camino, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Judging a book by its cover, man.
Matt's cool. Matt's all right.
Yeah.
But no, I remember the first time we played, I sucked. Well, that gig, Israel called me like that same day. He's like, "Hey, can you cover for me at this planta?" I think it was maybe like 3 p.m. where he called me, and the planta was like at 7, I think. And it's because he was stuck at his house. That's when it got flooded in San Marcos.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And like you literally couldn't drive onto the road. So he's like, "Can you go do it?" I was like, "Yeah." I show up with my like $50 vihuela that I had, a little tiny cheap vihuela. And I think the very first song that y'all start with was like Corrido Monterrey. And never heard in my life. Like that gig I did with you guys was probably maybe the 5th gig that I ever done in my life. And you already have all your songs set and everything. And then when y'all did Mariachi Loco, I was like, what the hell are y'all doing?
Oh yeah.
The tiki rap that he does. And so yeah, I went in there. I was like, man, I know nothing. But now when I'm thinking back of all those songs that we played, I'm like, I know them now.
Yeah.
Because there weren't even that like difficult songs. It just I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah, back then we used to start off with like Monterrey into España Cani, and then it would go into like Almayanera, Urge, and then we would do Talon, and then we always had clients that were like, we want this and this and this. So it was a good planta. I liked it.
Wait, so you guys did the same like set every time you started?
Not every time, but we had like the songs that we knew were really polished, and we had rehearsed. We would do like Pasajero, La Vaquilla, and stuff like that. Just stuff that we were like
show stuff a little bit.
Copetonas and Javali.
Oh yeah,
because that's just what we practiced back then. But now, like, yeah, I haven't been with a group that like practices that's like sternly.
You're talking about what we practice every week, compadres.
It shows.
bro.
We used to.
We those songs that like you listed, we don't really play much of those here. But I played in San Antonio recently, and we would do a little bit of that stuff. So I forgot a lot of that.
Yeah.
A lot of those songs. Those are good songs, man. Like I had a lot of fun playing them, but I know from experience from playing with them and people in San Antonio in general, but playing with that group recently, like I realized, dang, like I forgot how San Antonio was like the definition of like talon, you know, like everything.
Yeah, we can cut a song.
Yeah,
in like quarters.
Yeah, dude. So,
but I mean that's everywhere. Like me traveling, I'm always going to Houston, Dallas, and I always hear stories from my friends from like Israel went to Cali, and then my other friend went to Mexico. Like they always tell me like, man, everybody does something different. Like nothing's the same.
Yeah.
And that's what I find so interesting because like I have to know how to play like one song 20 different ways depending on who I'm playing with.
Yeah.
Like when I come with the guys from Austin, I'm like, okay, this is how they're gonna play it. I already know.
Yeah.
But then when I go to Dallas, I'm like, this is how they're gonna play it. And then I go to San Antonio and I'm like, this is how they're gonna play it. It just depends. It's all preference.
But it's crazy how they have that.
Okay. We back.
Small little break. Get off your phone, Matt.
I'm sorry.
Got to do business. Matt's always on his phone during. I don't know if you ever hear like clicking during the podcast. It's Matt on his phone.
I just hear him really quiet. He doesn't have his questions ready.
You don't hear any breathing.
Yeah,
nothing.
I'm like, get your questions ready, Matt. I want educated questions here. What's your favorite color, Vince?
What color underwear are you wearing?
Nobody ever answered that question. You know?
Nobody ever answered it, man.
I don't know. I'd have to take off
See
my
if you
pants.
You forgot?
No underwear.
Actually, I don't know what color.
Do you remember where we're at, or do I ask Vince a very deep?
No, I don't remember. Let's see. No, I don't remember. I just searched my database. Can't find the information.
No, I wanted to mention on how the people that know Vince in this area, they know him as a guy who plays a lot of chords. He does a lot of stuff on the guitar, and he does that stuff very well. So where does a lot of that stuff come from? Because I know you listen to like trio music and so many different genres, jazz and all that. How did you, I guess, kind of acquire that knowledge? Is it just you kind of do something, it sounds cool, you do it, or there's theory behind it?
Both, kind of. For me, it kind of comes from growing up. I really like the sound of guitar, like flamenco and stuff, like anything that sounds real cool on guitar. And it's like a piano in that like you can accompany somebody, but like it can be its own voice. It can do all sorts of things. So growing up, I was always like interested in it, and I would always play around with them. And then slowly, I would learn like one chord, and then I'd be like, okay, well, if you move one finger, it changes it, and then move it again, and like all that stuff. So then I'd be like, oh, there's like a lot of different cool stuff you can do. So like, and then I noticed with mariachis, they like to play from like here this way. Mm-hmm. So like they never really go past here, even though like the guitar has like all this right here. But I get it. I understand why they do that. But like I just never wanted to limit myself. I was like, I want to learn more and more and more. So then my mom bought me like a tonal harmony book when I was in high school. She bought it like at a half price book for like $20. And it was already like beaten up and written in, but I just kept reading the same chapters over and over again about scales and modes and all this like theory. And I would just constantly like absorb that stuff up, and then I started like making my own little like, oh, well, you know what? Like it'd be cool if this came in on this song, or like at the end of this song, I do this. And then I started listening to a lot of trio music. Bossa Nova was like a big influence for me. And then I always had friends that were like, oh, well, you like that? Like, here's this. And they'd show me more stuff, and I'd be like trying to eat it, just eat it. Like, oh man, this is cool. Like, I'm sure you guys have shown me stuff, and I'm just like, yes, like I'll learn it. Like, even if it's cheap, I'll learn it.
Even if it's wrong,
don't do it. Like even if it sounds wrong, like I'll still try it.
No, that's something I try to do, because even let's say somebody isn't that well polished as a musician, there's things that you just don't know, or that people think differently, and they'll do something that you're like, huh, that's cool, and then you start doing it. And then someone sees you doing it, then they do it, and then it just builds. But you've done a lot of crazy stuff. I remember we played probably a couple months ago, where I told the story on the podcast, but I couldn't remember what song it was. It was a 2/4 song that you just went off on the guitarrón for like a good minute.
It was probably Caminos de Michoacán.
Yeah, I think it was.
Because towards the end, I usually do like a solo, and depending on my mood, I'll just be like, I'll do a few bars. But like that time, everybody was like kind of dancing, and I was just like, I'm just gonna jump in, just And then I always tell people like, it's weird because like soloing on a bass, since it has like such a deep hole to it, like it's like jingling keys in front of a baby. They don't care what it sounds like; they just like that it jingles.
Yeah.
So like, when I'm on the bass, I'll literally just be like boom, 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 like chromatics going up and down. And they don't like hear it. They just hear bum, 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 bum.
Yeah.
That's what they want to hear, like a pulse.
It's funny when you even like do the slide up and you're like pew pew.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at the other charros like, look, check it out. They don't care. The clients don't care.
I do a lot of that stuff on the bass. Matt has seen that, and it's always fun and cool. But man, some mariachis hate it. Like some of the players I played with, they're like, "Wait, don't do that."
Yeah. No, I've dealt with like a lot of stigmas for sure. Like with the way I treat like my basses for sure.
Well, but that's something else.
But it's because like I never grew up being able to buy really expensive basses. Like everyone's like, oh, you need a Morales, and then I look at Moraleses and they're like $1,200, and I'm like, okay, I can't afford that. I can only afford like this. I spent the first bass I bought was like $500 from a pawn shop, and I shouldn't have paid $500 for it. And ever since then, I kept breaking them. So then I kept thinking like, there's no reason for me to like buy a good bass if I'm constantly going to the river, or I'm like always in situations where it's getting beat up. Mm-hmm. So I kept buying like broken or like cheap basses, and I would fix them myself. Mm-hmm. And then I would just play on them. And since they're kind of like worth like $100, I like just like drag them around, or I'll just like treat them kind of badly. And all the other mariachis look at me like, oh, well, you're disrespecting the instrument. And I'm like, I understand that. Like, I understand why you want to treat instruments with such respect. And I'm for it. Like, I love my guitars. But at the same time, I'm like, they're like tools, You buy tools, you don't just leave them there and, oh, they look pretty. You use them. Yeah. So, like, Penny, I've only had her for like 3 or 4 years, and everybody's like, what happened to her? And I'm like, it's called you know, like I'm
Just
working.
jamming out.
I'm just
Yeah,
working.
I'm working.
You know?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, well, you should get it fixed, or no, that shouldn't happen if you're playing with the right technique. And I'm like, no, I get that. Like, I get that. But like, this is how I play.
Oh, dude, that literally looks like you took a fucking drill and just started drilling through the fucking guitar. You're like, this is gonna sound better.
Because of the way I strum, it would always hit like this.
Uh-huh.
And like it literally started off like so little.
Yeah.
And then it got bigger. So this Mika is the original one. I ate through that one. And then there's a second.
You ate
Mika.
through that?
Yeah. And then there's a second Mika under this one. And I ate through that one.
Yeah.
And now this one's the third Mika. And it hasn't gotten through yet.
Yeah, we're looking at layers of Mika there.
Yeah.
God,
And the problem is if I try to take off any of the layers, it'll like
Just rip.
strip the wood.
Yeah.
So at this point, she has to look like this.
Uh-huh.
So a lot of people are like,
That's a
"Man,
good guitar, though.
No, yeah, I
Sounds
love
badass.
how she looks. You know, it shows that she has character.
Character, yeah, man.
So like,
That's what
whenever
I say
people
every
are
time.
like-
That's,
and I like to. She likes to be played around with people. So like, I'll hand her to other people and they'll like play on her, and they'll usually be like, "Oh, she plays really nice," even though she looks like bad.
Telling you, man.
like Alejandro said, she's not jealous.
Yeah.
but
Guitars are not jealous.
that's cool. I always say that too to people because I had that problem too where I would tear through the Mika all the time because I'm one that always like digs in really hard.
Yeah.
So
like whenever I get questions about like, oh, well, like what's like, I always get it like, what's proper technique or this and that, and I can explain like, oh, you want to like hit it like at the very top of the string, but like all of them and just like
yeah,
and like all that jazz. Like, yeah, I can give
You
the
know it.
Yeah, the tools that you want, but like when it comes to me getting into that like mood, and I'm like, yeah, man, I just like I don't know. And it's the same thing when I one time I talked to Tony Zuniga, and I told him, I was like, hey, Tony, like, how do you play this part, or like what is it that you feel? And he just looked at me and he's like, I just do whatever I want, dude. Like I just do like whatever I want. And I looked at him and I was like, thank you, man. You're like
thank you.
the first person to tell me that, because like anybody else you ask, they want to like dive into like what a strum is and like all this stuff, and I get it, like, yeah, it's being meticulous and articulate all these things, but at the same time, like for me, mariachi isn't something like modern. It's something that like is held culturally, you know, like it's just something that you feel and you kind of like grow up with, you know. Like I used to hear like these amazing arrangements, but at the end of the day, there's like a systemic depression, what is it, like oppression. So like you have like the people who do mariachi like full time because they have no choice.
Yeah.
And then you have people who do it like as a side gig because they're like, oh,
maybe,
yeah,
maybe a hobby.
Yeah, and I get it. Like, hobbies are awesome. Like, if you love mariachi because you're a good singer or all that stuff, more power to you. But I've met mariachis that like they're not the best, but they're out there every day. Like every day they're out there playing.
They're dependent on it.
Yeah, so like that always kind of like gave me like this fire. Like, man, these people like they're trying to provide for their families, or you know, like this is what they really love, and they want to work on it every day. And then there's other people that just like do it for like a few days out of the week or like a few days out of the month. So I try to balance that, you know, like somebody who can do show music, but somebody who can do like mariachi loco.
Yeah, dude.
And
That's cool.
yeah, you know, it is hard to find someone that can do both. Because I mean, to do the gigs, especially the ones that like we do, like compadres, you know how they are, and then the clients, you have to be a certain way with those clients.
Yeah.
And then to go do an opera, you can't act the way you do with the compadres gigs up on stage.
Yeah.
People in suits and dressed up nice.
It's about conforming and really like understanding, like being super proper, but also being like really laid back, you know, like doing talon. They always used to tell me like, you're gonna get told no, and that's why a lot of people don't like to go up to tables and be like, hey, would y'all like a song? Because there's something about it, like it irks them, like their introvertness or something. But like after the first like 1,000 times somebody tells you no,
Yeah.
you go up to
Yeah,
the
you
next
still-
table. You're like, hey, you want a song? And they're like, no, and you're like, all
Sorry.
right, like bye. Like you just go to the next
Yeah,
table.
yeah.
Like you're like, I'm
Yeah.
used to
You're
it.
still getting paid. No
You
matter
You
what.
actually get surprised when somebody says yes. You're like, oh really?
What?
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, cool.
It's gotten to that point. Yeah, especially with COVID. But I mean, that just goes to show, honestly, dude, like the type of musician that you are, man. Like Alex was saying, not everybody can do those two types of settings. You know, your good friend Israel once told me, he was like, "Yeah, man, I gotta," because I think one of our trajes was all fucked up or something, maybe mine, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I gotta get you out from playing out of the gutters." You know, he was always wanting to play these, you know, really nice gigs and, you know, wanted the perfect conditions and stuff.
Yeah.
but like you said, you know, or like Alex was saying, you know, you're one of those that plays, you can play in really in all those settings,
Yeah, man.
do your job well.
It's about just doing your job and, you
Yeah.
know, doing it right. You know, whether they call you to do like one song and, you know, it's going to be like Mariachi Loco, or they call you
Yeah.
to go do 4 hours and they want you to like prepare an hour's worth of like sones and an hour's worth of something else. It's
Yeah.
like, it just depends, man. Like
Customer service.
Yeah, you're going to get paid what, you know, you want. But at the end of the day, you should always give 100% at every
Yeah,
gig.
for sure.
And I feel like that energy can be daunting to some people, because like I'll go play with people and I'll try to like give my like 100%, and they'll just be like, oh no, it's just a calm gig, like whatever. And I'm like, nah, that's not a good mentality, like to take it relaxed and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, relax, but like still have fun.
Mm.
Like I've been at gigs where I'm just like, man, everybody's kind of like down, like they think it's like a job.
Uh-huh.
And I mean, it is a job, but you know, I try not to think of it as a job. I'm like, I'm here to provide music, fun,
Yeah.
all this stuff, and you know.
Well, if you're doing something and you really like it, you never really want to think of it as actual work, right? Or
Yeah.
you never do. Some most of the time,
Yeah.
that's the case. But going back to the playing, would you consider yourself then? So you wouldn't consider yourself as like a more aggressive player, or like somebody that plays softer, like you just go by feel.
Yeah,
You just-
it totally depends on like who I'm accompanying or what I'm doing. Like everyone, you know, I went through my phases of playing like ridiculously fast and ridiculously hard and ridiculously soft and like everything, you know, like everybody goes through these like little phases and stuff. But I was always like trying to like understand dynamics more, which like growing up a lot of people don't tell you about. They only tell you about speed and like kind of loudness. So, but like once you play at one setting, they're like, that's the setting you play at. You just play at like that setting, but it's like, nah, when the voice comes in, you want to like get a little quieter. And then on the solo, maybe like you have to think about all these things, and you'd be surprised at how many like people don't listen to each other. Like it's kind of like a broken record, but like as I was growing up, they'd be like, listen to the violins, listen to the trumpets, listen to the bass, listen to yourself, listen to the singer. And you would think it'd be like a little more like, oh, I get it. Like I just listen to them. But like a lot of people still don't get it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, no, you have to like put everybody together and just make sure that everything's running smoothly.
It's a system.
Yeah. And if one person's not doing it right, then it kind of gives it that sound. Not that it's bad, just like it's like it's like wobbly.
It's like if you're playing your guitar and something's out of tune, you're gonna hear it.
Yeah. And like with me, when I used to play in San Antonio, I remember one time this group, like 6 people plus me, they all knew this one arrangement to one song, and it was like completely wrong. Like I don't even know where they got this arrangement from. But I was playing it my way, and all of them were playing it their way. And I just remember thinking like, well, then I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Because if they're all doing it together, but I'm not the one doing it, then I'm wrong. So I would change it to be, you know, fitting with them. But I just remember being like, every time I play with them, I'm going to have to do this. I'm never going to do that anywhere else but with them. And I was like, okay.
Vince is talking about us, by the way.
No. No, this was a long, long time ago in San Antonio.
But Vince, would you care to please our listeners' ears with some of your talent?
Yeah, I can probably talk while I do it too.
You probably can, dude.
So
You do it all the time during games.
Yeah, I just like to jam out and talk. It's like kind of helpful to me to do stuff like that. But what I like to do a lot is listen to like Jose and Alvaro Carrillo, Agustin Lara, like composers from Mexico, and guys who accompany themselves on guitar. They play a certain style, you know. So like in one instance, you have people that can do like a bolero, right? Like tanto tiempo disfrutamos, and they'll just do this. Este amor, nuestras almas. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like real dry and cut, which is like it's its own style. It's beautiful. And then you have like more of a lyrical kind of like the guitar has its own voice. Tanto tiempo disfrutamos de este amor, nuestras almas se acercan, tanto así que yo guardo tu sabor. All stuff like that. So it's that's just how I like to play and like accompany others or myself. But then like I went through a phase where I was like, I don't need to know that much to play mariachi. It was kind of like an insult to myself to be like, well, I don't need to be able to play all these jazzy chords because there's no point. I'm going to go to a gig and just do that for like an hour.
Yeah.
You know, like what's the point of learning all this other stuff? But then I grew out of that as I got older and started getting more opportunities. And then people would recognize me and be like, hey, like I like the way you play. Like you do a little, you know, it's a little different. It's like a little spice. So then I was like, oh, I'm glad you liked it. So then I started like using it more in mariachi. And for the most part, I've had complaints when I was younger to like keep it more simple. But now as I'm getting older, it's like, well, that's just how Vince is. You know, they can't really say anything. So they're just like, well, that's just him.
I feel like it gets like that, right?
Yeah.
Like, people just give up and then
Yeah. I guess they all gave up on me.
Yeah.
So at this point, it's just like, we're going to take this guy and he's just gonna play how he plays and just ignore him.
But I mean, it's not bad at all, dude. It's like really badass.
I try what I try to do is to compliment. I know a lot of people like to think like, oh, he like tries to like shift it like too much.
Yeah.
But like a lot of times when I'm playing on the bass is trying to compliment whether the song's like a cumbia or a ranchera or something. And then when I'm playing guitar, it's like if I'm playing bolero somehow, I'm going to put more chords.
Yeah.
But if I'm playing a son, I'm going to play it like it's a son. And if it's a ranchera, it'll be a ranchera, you know?
Yeah.
You don't put those minor sevens and sones.
No. No, never.
All right, I need to stop doing that then.
I did that one time.
Well,
actually, not in the song. It was like a ranchera.
Well, the way Tech State does their what's it? That wapango, querreque, with the chord changes to the F sharp minor and then the B minor and all this.
Yeah, that's a Vargas arrangement that they probably took it from.
See, I did that one time and added a minor 7 and a ranchera actually, and Adolf was like, "Is this a bolero? Is this a fucking bolero?" And I was like, "No." It's like shit, dude.
But like that in itself is like its own, like growing up, what you're taught, you know.
Yeah.
So like I don't know, man. Like just trying to like, it's like a book that's not finished yet. Like everyone keeps writing in it, but you still have to look at the other pages to be like, oh, okay, this is what they thought, but this is what the new thought should be. So like how
That's
mariachi
true.
is now, like the Sol de Mexico arrangements and everything, like they're beautiful. But you show those to people from like the 40s and they'll be like, what is that? Like that sounds weird.
Yeah.
Like
It's not natural.
Yeah.
But it's, I mean, that's interesting because Jose Hernandez grew up on that shit.
Yeah. He, like I said,
He's the
he
one
has an understanding
Yeah.
like that goes far back, but he's trying to change it to
Exactly.
something that's his own like stamp on mariachi. That's like, hey, this is Jose Hernandez. You know, you listen to an arrangement and you're like, that has to be Jose Hernandez. Or you listen to Lluvia de Cuerdas and you're like, that's Pepe Martinez.
Yeah.
You just know who's who just by listening to a piece of a song.
Right.
And that's kind of like what I try to convey when I'm playing. So like if I listen to a recording, I'll be like, who's that on bass? And I'll listen to it and I'll be like, that sounds like it could be me. and then I'll hear it a little longer, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's me. Or like I'll listen to the guitar, and I'm like, yeah, that has to be me.
Yeah.
If not, like 2 other people that I showed all my chords to,
All right.
and they're just using them too.
Yeah.
That's way the way mariachi is evolving and keeps growing. I think it's gonna get to the point to where how classical music is now, because there's different time periods for classical music. There's the Baroque, Romantic era, and these kind of things. But also with that, like people just know if something's made by Bach, they can just tell, by how it sounds, or Beethoven, or all these famous composers.
Yeah.
I think eventually you'll get like that with mariachi as well. Like these people like Jose Hernandez or Pepe Martinez, Ruben Fuentes. It's gonna be like, year maybe 100 years in the future or more. They're gonna be looked at as kind of as that way. They just hear an arrangement and like, oh, this is how it was done by this arranger. And I mean, and it kind of shows in a way, since mariachi keeps growing in schools and colleges, and more universities are putting that into their curriculum and stuff.
Yeah, and the kids nowadays are like, I think they're on steroids, because I'm listening to like middle schoolers and they're sounding
good,
better than college groups. I'm like, man.
Yeah, dude, you sound good. I feel like there's so many more resources now than.
Yeah, well, the teachers are also being more educated.
That's true.
Because I feel like maybe before my time, like during the 80s and 90s, all the good mariachis were doing their own thing. They weren't in schools.
Yeah.
And now all those kids that they taught, now they're getting older. They're the ones that are like, well, let's be educators now.
Yeah.
So like you now have like all these great mariachis that are teachers. So that's why like the Valley has like a lot of good teachers. There's like, I mean, a lot of people say like San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, like now they're getting up and coming. Like UH just started not too long ago. They're getting really good. There's programs in San Antonio that are really good. You have the kids from Kyle, like Austin. I think they have like an academy here. So like, and then in Dallas you have like Grand Prairie. So there's like a lot of schools that are doing really great. And then you have California, which is like its own beast of mariachis, And then like, I don't know if you know, but there's like a community in Chicago. There's one in New York. So like all the major cities have like this like way of being.
It's growing for sure.
Yeah, and then there's Arizona, the Tucson, and then New Mexico with the Albuquerque conference.
Of course, yeah.
So it's just like constantly growing. And I never used to do any of that stuff. I was just like, maybe 3 years ago, the furthest I went was like Louisiana. And then all of a sudden I got a call like, hey, can you help out this school group? And I was like, well, I'm already going back to school. So they were like, well, can you like help us out? We're going to go to Albuquerque. So I went the first year. And then, I thought nothing of it. Like, oh, cool. It's something that like people do every year as like a mariachi, like get together. I don't know, like a sleepover, whatever the hell it is. We did that. Then we came back, and then I kept going to school. And then they called me again, like, oh, well, we're going to do it again next year. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's do that. And then all of a sudden I got a call to go to China, and I was like, okay. And then I got, we did the Albuquerque again, and then I went to Cali, and then I went to Europe. And then all of a sudden while we were in Europe, they were like, there's an opera thing going on. And then, so we auditioned for that. And then I was like, man, like, I felt like my life was like Riverwalk, clinician, where I was helping at some schools. And then it was slowly going like this. And then it just went like China and everywhere, all this shit. And like, I have a lot of people that like, for some reason they're like, oh, just because you travel now, like, or just because you do this now, and I'm like, dude, I love coming home and just doing, like, I literally did a gig last night at midnight with like 3 guys that I've known for like 10 years, and I'm just like, dude, there's nothing that's gonna take that feeling away from me of just doing a gig at home. That's like, that like, it reminds me of my roots. Like, it just reminds me of all that stuff, and I love it, And I get that same feeling when I play anywhere. But, like, depending on who I'm playing with, I can kind of feel that, like, if people kind of don't like to do it, Like, I do a gig with people, and they're just like, let's just get this over with. And I'm like, that's just not, like, a good mentality. You want to play with people that enjoy what they're doing. And that's kind of, like, what gives me that motivation, Like, man, I shouldn't be doing these grand things in my head. Like, I'm beating myself up, with anxiety and stuff. And I'll be like, I shouldn't be doing like these grand things that are like above me because I don't feel like I'm a good enough musician. But at the same time, I know I've earned it to a degree. And I mean, since this opportunity is in my hands, I might as well take advantage of it. And in the end, I always use it to like motivate others, like my kids or like just people who like look up to me in a sense, you know. They'll be like, "Oh, how did you get to where you were?" And I'm like, "Dude, I just practiced. And you're never old. You never outgrow practicing, you know."
Seems like you really have. I mean, I don't know if there are ever times when you're playing or doing anything, and you come home and you're exhausted. Even then, like, do you just still go and like practice or study or whatever?
Yeah, if I have to, yeah.
Mm.
And then there's times where like obviously you feel like, oh man, I'm really exhausted. Like
Yeah.
I'll just go to sleep. But there's times where I'll get home and it'll be like midnight or 1 a.m, and I still feel good. And I'm like, yeah, man, I'll just grab my guitar and I'll just start jamming.
Yeah.
What I like to do is I like to remember how like my younger self would jam out, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe I didn't play mariachi. Maybe I played like rock and roll. So like I'll just grab the guitar and I'll start going over like the stuff I used to play when I was 14. And then from there be like, man, I really grew, like, you know, like from what I learned and stuff. And then I start playing, you know, like more stuff, and I'll do warm-ups and stuff. Yeah. I'll try to go live just to get people to like motivate me.
Yeah.
Like, you suck.
So luckily, you saw that comment I made?
Yeah. So luckily I have a lot of friends that try to motivate me. But at the same time, they never go live, so I can't motivate them.
So what is it? Comments like that motivates you to continue to work? To get better?
I think it happened because like when I was growing up, I had a lot of guys that would tell me like, "Oh, you should just give up" and all this stuff. And yeah, I know some of them said it like jokingly, but at the same time, they said it with such like commitment that I felt.
You can tell it's genuine.
Yeah, right? So I kind of felt it.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, man, all right, cool. So like, I've always been from that crowd of like, they said I can't do it, so I'm gonna do it just to prove them wrong. Yeah. So like, I love negative reinforcement, but I don't endorse it.
Right. You don't always pay attention to it.
Yeah. So like, I don't like. I mean, personally, unless like you're a really good friend of mine, you'll never hear me like make a bad comment. I always try to motivate. I'll be like, just practice, you know.
That's true.
But if like you're like a really close friend of mine, I'll be like, look, what you did was good, but it could be better.
That's true, because I suck and you don't say anything ever. So,
so you must not be that good of a friend.
No, we're good friends. Matt's always trying to hit me up for like advice and stuff. And me being a good friend, I'm always like, you got it, bro. You got it, you know.
Don't need me.
Even though in the back of your mind, you're like, this guy don't got a chance.
I'm the parent watching them like struggle on the bike, and I'm like, you got it. Don't worry about it.
What do you
have to fall, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Like I learned that the hard way because I didn't know how to ride a bike, and then I like slammed like 20 times, and now I'm riding a bike like, oh, this is easy. But I forget about all those times I slammed.
Fucking blood on your face and everything.
Yeah, dude, it's gotten that bad. One time I hit the shit out of a tree. Like I scraped my face, and I went to a gig, and all the clients were looking at me like, "What's wrong with him? Get him to a hospital." I was like, "I'm fine. I'm fine." Like, but then I looked, and it was bad. Like all this, I look like Two-Face.
God,
so I never. Like, oh man.
I don't know if I ever said the story on here, but when I would boxing, well, I still box, but last year when I was sparring, it was a really hard sparring session. This is when I was more like in shape, it was more like a serious sparring match. He got me pretty good, a good number of times in the head, and then I had a gig in like 2 hours. And so I left the gym, right, changed and everything. I get there. I straight up started forgetting the words to songs. I was just standing there singing. I was like,
you had a concussion.
What are the words? Yeah, I just stood there, couldn't remember the words of the songs. And I was like, man, I need to lie down.
And you had like 8 hours that day.
I had my ear was all purple and everything.
I don't know if I remember that. I probably wasn't there.
I don't know who I played with.
Can't remember.
One time when I was doing, I was working. It was like a Saturday in the morning. I went to go play at a restaurant, and for some reason I don't know what happened. I saw the trios come in, and then I blinked and I was on the floor.
Oh,
and
shit.
so they told me that I had passed out, and I hit my head on the bar, and then I fell and I started seizing a little. So like, they woke me up immediately, and they were like, "Oh shit, are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm fine." Like, I don't even remember what happened. I just blacked out.
Wow.
And
That's
so
crazy.
like, I called my mom, and she's like, "Go to the hospital." And I called my sister, and she's like, "Go to the hospital." And like, everyone there is like, "Go to the hospital, go to the hospital." But I was like, "We have 4 hours later." So I was
I
like,
gotta work.
"Let me go eat. Let me go see if I feel better." So we do those 4 hours, and then I go home, and I'm like literally in bed. It's like 10:30. I'm like, okay, time to relax. I had a traumatic day, whatnot, whatever. And then I get a call. Can you do 2 hours? And I was like, yes. So I did 6 hours, and man, like those guys, they always pick on me. They're like, "Man, I remember that time you passed out, and then you did 6 hours." And I was like, "Yeah, you got to."
That's crazy, dude.
You got to do it.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta do it. I think that happened to me recently, but I didn't like pass out or anything. I think I was about to pass out, but for some reason I started getting like these bad migraines, dude. And I never had one before in my life. But yeah, we had like 4 hours or something, and I was like, yeah, I gotta go. My mom was like, nah, you gotta stay home. You're sick or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, nope, gotta go. But I was like, it was really bad, dude. Like, I don't even remember what happened that day. I never had a migraine before though.
I have a bunch of
bad.
stories like that too.
Yeah.
Just like literally getting a fever after the first hour and still having 3 hours, and at the second gig I'm like like sweating, like just bullets, and I'm just like, man, like there's nothing I can do.
You've done gigs hungover, right?
Yeah.
That sucks,
Yeah,
dude.
but that's every other week.
Yeah.
It sucks.
Well, back in the day, we used to play at a restaurant every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so on Saturdays, we would be playing till like 1 or 2 in the morning with clients, and they're offering us drinks in here and there.
Yeah.
But then on Sunday, we'd have to do talon at 10 in the morning.
In the mornings.
So like, I remember just like all 5 of us just looking at each other like, oh man.
Yeah.
Do we even want to come on Sundays? But like, nah. By the end of the day, you're
worth
good.
it.
Yeah.
Because some restaurants they give like breakfast, right? Or they give food.
Oh no. Not those. No, it's very
pancakes. This happened a lot of times, and I guess recently where I mean, sometimes we'll finish 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. Towards usually at the last gig, I'll start playing. I'll be playing standing with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
I'll just have my eyes closed and keep playing. And sometimes the clients try to talk to me. I'm like, I don't even look at them. I'm trying to fall asleep while playing, standing up. Cold. Outdoors. But Vince,
What's up?
do you like pie?
Do I like pie?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, so I mean, what else do you have planned? Do you have anything going on? I guess rest of this year, coming up next year.
I mean, man, COVID was like I don't want to say it was a blessing, because I mean it's like a pandemic, but like because of it, a lot of people got to like breathe, like take a step back from like work, which I think was like needed for a lot of people. And then, of course, like trying to stay safe, wearing mask. And I just got my test yesterday. I'm negative, so you guys don't have to worry.
Sweet. COVID-free pod.
But yeah, like I think the CD that we're recording in Houston wouldn't have happened without COVID, unfortunately. But I mean, it's like a silver lining. And then we were supposed to be in Japan this year, but that got pushed to next year, which was also kind of a silver lining. And then the opera that we were supposed to do this year in Arizona got pushed to next year. Mm-hmm. And then we're going to do it again the year after that. So I have like little things lined up. Like I have chunks of months that are already set, but I need to like fill in the others. And usually what I do is like, I'll do my writing. I'll do odd jobs or just, working the weekends. But it just depends, you know. Yeah. That's what I like about it. Is just like something new comes up every day. Like randomly, I'll get a message like, "Hey, can you record?" It'll be somebody I don't even know, and I'm like, "Yeah," you know. Yeah. They're like, "Can you record your feet?" And I'm like, "Nah."
You're like,
wrong recording.
How much?
Yeah. They're like, "Do you have an OnlyFans like for guitars?" Or like, what do you mean?
You pose with your guitars
only
naked?
have fans?
No.
You don't pose with your the guitars naked?
Yeah. No.
They'll post
Like
you in the magazines with your guitar.
That would sell some calendars.
I have so many guitars that what I do is usually I'll like I'll do them like shoes. You know how like you'll get one and then you put it down and you get the other one. You're like, oh, I'm gonna use this one today.
Oh yeah.
So I usually do that with my guitars.
I always wondered how people would do that, but
I used to do that when I had 8 vihuelas.
Yeah.
My biggest pet peeve is that I mean it's not a pet peeve, but it's the fact that I consider myself a guitarist. Like I like to only play guitar. Not that I can't play vihuela, but like I just prefer not to, and I don't own one. I own like 4 guitars, but I still get people that are like, "You have to go on vihuela. Like you have to.
Yeah, because you could just go on guitar by yourself.
Yeah,
right?
but a lot of people they don't want that. They're like, "No, you go on vihuela." Like, they're like, "We don't even care if you have to find a really bad one. Go find one, and then come to our gig on vihuela." And I still show up on guitar. And they're mad. They're like, they don't want to say it. They're just like, "Oh, okay, fine." And I do my job like I'm supposed to. And then, like afterwards, they're like, "No, it's gay."
It sounded good.
Yeah, they're like, "It's gay, you know, like vihuela. That's mariachero." And I'm like, "Okay,
No, it's not.
Okay, cool."
I mean, well, the guitar was before the vihuela, technically.
Yeah, well, I have a golpe, so I always joke about that. I'm like, I have a golpe, I can bring that.
You want true mariachi sound.
Yeah, but then they're like, no, we just want a vihuela.
What tuning do you use for the golpe?
Michoacan, I think. So the D is a G. Like, it's tuned like a guitarra.
Yeah, cool, man. That's cool. Don't you have a golpe or no?
I had 2. I sold one to Jarek. But
what?
He tunes it like a freaking vihuela, so whatever.
Wait.
But no, yeah, I have a golpe that actually Tony Zuniga played on it in Albuquerque. And he actually showed me a tuning, the tuning that he uses for golpe, which you tune everything in like a fourth. So like if you play a C shape on it, it's an F. And so he showed me that, and I was like, oh, that's cool. But he showed me that tuning after we competed. After I used, I was using the
one where the D's in the middle, like a jarana. Like the D's right here rather than up here.
I was using the Urbana arriba tuning. So the E was like an octave up. I don't remember. I think it was like that. I don't know. It was many years ago. And I just kind of learned that tuning for the competition. And afterwards, I switched to the other tuning that Tony showed me.
You were like, we could have won.
What was our score for the rhythm?
It was like a 25, bro. It was horrible.
Pancho was mad or something.
We got the lowest on out of the group because the violins and the trumpets were all getting like 40s and like I don't know if 50 is that possible or is it? I don't know how many.
I don't remember the total score, but we're the lowest.
Well, we got like 25, dude, and we're like shit.
And these guys come and cheat. Remember what I told you when you beat us?
Well, no.
When you all got first place, you're holding the trophy, and I think I was with Matt or Luis, and I was like, "Hey,"
because I was like, "Let's go congratulate."
Yeah,
him,
I think it was with Matt. And I was like,
Matt.
I said, "Hey, you like holding my trophy for me?"
Oh,
yeah, I remember that, and I remember thinking like, well, you maybe he'll get it back next year, but you know,
we never did.
No, we lost again. I didn't even go.
Yeah,
we lost because you didn't come, man.
Yeah, that's what it was.
The little fish should have brought me, but
actually, I remember that second year, I like tried to psych y'all out. Like right before y'all went on stage, I was like, let's make a bet.
Oh yeah, dude.
I was like, let's make a really, I can't say it on the podcast, but I was like, let's make a bet. And then like afterwards they did their performance and y'all sounded really good. I remember that year I was like, man, y'all sound really, really good because y'all had like Nettie and Alex.
That was a fun group.
And then like we went up and then like everybody was like, man, it was so close. And I was like, close, but you know.
Right,
you guys sounded good, man. Y'all make it, who was I telling somebody? I think it was maybe Carlton because there was so many of y'all that are like y'all just do it for, a living,
Yeah.
a bunch of mariacheros up there, and it seems so natural, everything for us is we rehearse like all these movements and stuff, but for you guys it seemed natural.
I mean, I shouldn't have to tell y'all, but like with big groups, it's like it looks easy, but and then at the same time, like the rehearsals were like hell.
Yeah.
And everybody has their opinions, and everybody's right, but everybody's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like that, and then we were all getting burned out. But at the end of the day, like we all just looked at each other and we were like, let's just have fun, dude. Like the first time we went, we didn't expect anything. We were just like, let's go have fun. Yeah. I saw all the animosity with all the other groups, and I was just like, I don't know. I'm just here to have fun.
Yeah.
And we won, so I was just like, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't expect.
How do we do that?
I didn't expect.
How do we do that? No, I mean, you guys were awesome.
So obviously that first year, everyone was like fluke, and so then we went back second year, and we're like, not fluke.
Not fluke, yeah.
Yeah, we're like, how did Sac
twice
beat us? And then they do it again, and that was it. Never again.
Yeah.
And it got canceled.
I will say this: you guys made some people very upset.
Oh yeah, I have some stories too that I can't say, but
I'm not gonna say
either. Cursing.
I remember. Yeah, I heard a lot.
My brother was there to witness a lot of it.
Oh, Jonathan?
In the audience, yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Dude, he was shocked.
Yeah,
but
good job for you guys.
No, Albuquerque was fun. I remember the first year that we went, we did like a bunch of jam sessions. I went to, I think, the very last one, the very last night. And that's when you were there. You were there, and Israel. And I remember, I think it was somebody. We go back to you not really. I wouldn't say not caring about your instruments, but being real rough.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one night we were playing, and I think somebody popped your string. It might have been Angel.
Oh yeah, he popped it and he was bleeding on it.
He was bleeding, and then he was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, I got blood all over your guitar or something like that." And you're like, "Man, I don't care." And you just grabbed your guitar and you like drug it along the wall like that. I was like, "Dang, dude." You're like, "I don't care."
Yeah, that was Angel, and that was actually Penelope. I remember.
Oh, okay.
But I think that was more because like we didn't have to like play anymore.
Yeah, dude.
So I was like real pristine. Like I was changing her strings every like 2 days to make sure she was like at tip top shape. And then after we like did the competition and like everything didn't matter, I was like, break the strings. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Like
I'm going home.
That was hilarious, man. But I had a good time. I know that for sure. I remember we were all doing the jam session.
We picked you up.
Yeah. That was the second year we went.
Your school didn't want to.
Yeah, man. Lopez was like, nah, we're not.
Oh, that's right. You went on a plane.
I went on a plane. I went on like 2 planes that day, dude. That day was horrible. I had like a bunch of delays. Anyways, I think what happened there is Lopez, like, we started rehearsing for Albuquerque, and I told him, like, I got finals. I can't like leave with you guys. So I'm going to have to leave 2 days later. I'm going to take the plane. He's like, okay. And it was like, I don't know how far it was, maybe like 15 minutes or 20 minutes from the airport,
yeah, it wasn't
my hotel.
That far at all.
Yeah, it wasn't that far, but he was like, yeah, we'll pick you up, no problem. And then like the day of, he was like, hey, so we can't pick you up. And I was like, I don't have a ride. And I didn't have money to like get an Uber.
Just walk.
Yeah, I wasn't going to walk, dude. So I was like freaking out. I was like trying to find a ride. And then I texted Israel. He's like, hell yeah, man. Because you guys took the car because y'all had just come back from Houston.
Yeah.
To audition.
The audition.
Yeah. And so I hadn't known that. And I was like, maybe I'll ask. You'll see. And yeah, sure enough, you guys went and picked me up. I was kind of freaking out, though, because I was texting Israel like, hey, my flight's delayed. And then that was like 3 times that it was delayed. I ended up not getting there till like 1. But he never like responded to me. Yeah. So I was like, do I have a ride or do I not?
We were chilling in the room and he was like, I'll just wait till he gets here.
He never responded to me. I was like freaking out, dude.
And then all of a sudden he's like, Matt's here. Let's go. And I was like, all right, let's go.
And then you guys showed up and I was like, that's true friendship, man. They actually showed up.
He had to call the rival school to pick you up because the school.
Yeah, that's right. Because we were competing against you guys. I think Lopez and Quintero like making a big deal about it. But I mean, I didn't care really.
Okay, then why didn't they pick you up?
Exactly. But I got there late and a bunch of stuff happened, man. A bunch of drama. And I was like, wow.
Oh yeah, that drama.
I was like so ecstatic about, because like we literally that morning we went to go do the audition like at 10 in the morning, and then we had to drive 18 hours back to Albuquerque to get there like at 2-3 in the morning. I don't remember. We were gonna make it in time. Yeah. But literally on the drive back, they messaged us like, "Hey, y'all got the part."
Super quick, right?
So like all of us were just like, we already have like this job that's gonna like, you know, lift us up and whatnot. Yeah. So like when we went to Albuquerque, we were like, I don't know.
Nothing mattered.
Yeah, like
dude.
this is competition's kind of like. I mean, we still gave it our all, so it was just like, yeah.
If anything, it probably like it's like a motivation, another motivation maybe, or just another feel good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say like I lacked like, oh, just because we got this, now I'm gonna like slack off at this thing.
Yeah.
It was just like a relief. Like, okay, cool, I got this done over with, and now I gotta do this. Because when we were in Houston, that's when Israel was in Atzlan, and I saw what it did to him. Like, because he had to do like all this music for them, and then the music for the opera, and then like he was doing something with another group, so like he literally couldn't not play. Yeah, and I could see like it was kind of getting to him. So like, luckily for me, I didn't have anything going on except for the opera, but I could just imagine like, oh man. Like just burning yourself out, like with music. Yeah, it can happen. It's just, you know, don't do it. burning
yourself out, and it brings about a lot of stress.
Yeah,
you know? And a lot of people think, oh, you're like a mariachi, and you know that's like, you know, you're doing it for fun. But like people don't realize that it's work too, and it's stress too.
Yeah,
because you have, I don't know. I guess you could say maybe standards or.
Well, I mean, it's more than that. It can be any little thing like, you can be like living your normal life, especially if you're like a full-time musician. But like when it comes down to it, there's always things that happen. You have bills, and then unexpected things come up, and you got to get money for that. And like me, like I messed up my car when I was in Houston. I didn't know how I was gonna get back, and then for the CD that we're doing, I messed up my car. I couldn't work Saturday and like all this stuff. And then like the COVID's happening. So just like these bumps that like you forget about like years later. You're just like, oh, I forgot about that. Like, oh yeah, whatever. But like in the moment, you have to like work. And that's just the mentality that I've had growing up. Like my mom and my dad were just like, just work, be a hard worker. Yeah. But I guess I took that too much to heart. To where like I use it as like a sanctuary. Yeah. So like, man, I don't like being at home, or like, man, I have anxiety or this or that. So I would use work to kind of like be like, well, at least I'm doing something to give myself value. Yeah. Which is good, but it can also be bad, you know? Like a lot of people say like, oh, the traje itself has like a power. When you wear it, you know, you can do certain things, or like people feel more comfortable talking to you. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, but like don't rely on it too much. Yeah, you know,
that's true.
Just be yourself, man. Yeah, that's how I've always been.
Going back to how you said you took it too much to heart about, you know, work. Yeah, it's funny because I talk to a lot of like people that have like dated a mariachi, and it's never like a positive feedback.
No, yeah, nobody wants to date a musician. No,
it sucks.
Yeah.
Unless you date another mariachi.
And even that has its own like thing behind it, man. You know.
How so?
I mean, it you know, musicians always have their opinions, but like if y'all are both, you know, mariachis or both musicians in your own right, it can be hard. Whether it's like working with each other or like you're doing your own things. Like, okay, you're gonna go do your stuff, I'm gonna go do my stuff. It can be straining if you don't do it correctly, you know?
Oh, okay.
So that's why a lot of mariachis, they prefer to date non-musicians. Yeah. And then, like, a lot of people get warned, don't date a musician. You know, they're scoundrels.
Yeah.
Which, you know, like, not all of us are bad.
Yeah. Not all. Some are.
Yeah.
Yeah, all the late night drinking, all the parties, all the girls throwing themselves at you.
I mean, it's just as bad on the other side, but I mean...
Yeah, that's true.
It's just matter of perspective, you know. Like I get worried whenever my girlfriend's out playing, you know, because there's like a lot of guys out there, and then she gets worried, you know, obviously because I'm around a bunch of girls. But at the end of the day, we just go home and watch Netflix.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I remember one time I was talking to one of my friends, and he was getting married, and we were talking about that too, and I was like, yeah, nobody wants to like be with a mariachi. I was like, not even mariachis want to be with mariachis.
Yeah, because you know what's on the other end.
Or like we don't even want to like be ourselves, you know.
Yeah.
Like if we had a chance, we'd be doing like something else.
Something
I don't want
else,
to spend every single Saturday, and that's I think some people don't understand when you do a mariachi. It's every Saturday.
Yeah.
So you know, people say like, oh, you know, I work too. You work at whatever job you do, but most of the time you'll get days off, or you can schedule things. You can't, like, because it's Saturday and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like next weekend I'm graduating, and I can't really even enjoy that much, you know?
Yeah. You gotta
I
work.
got gigs.
Yeah, I gotta work.
But like
Weekends next week.
it's just about like discipline. Like when I was growing up, I used to think that same way. Like, man, I could never have this day off or this or that. And then randomly, I just remember like having a Saturday off and it feeling weird.
Yeah.
And then I realized like, well, I can kind of work when I want, you know, like it's not like a job.
Yeah.
The only thing is like the people that you work with, are they going to be nice enough to be like, oh yeah, take a Saturday off and then come back next Saturday? Or are they going to be like, no, just go away forever. We found somebody else. And it sucks because there's a lot of groups like that.
Yeah, there are.
You have like this, like, oh, I can't miss a Saturday because then they're going to replace me and then I'm gone forever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I had that happen to me once.
It's a stigma.
Yeah, it happens a lot and it sucks.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah, I mean, you can take days off, right? But the big difference, I guess, is that means you don't get paid,
yeah,
and that's like they make the most money usually.
yeah.
So I mean, you can take it off if you want, you just won't get money.
Yeah, but I mean that just becomes like if you're financially responsible and you kind of like you just need to have a vacation. You're like, I'm gonna take the Saturday off.
Yeah.
But that goes back to like me, what I was saying about like seeing the guys when I was growing up, like they didn't have that leisure. They didn't they had the leisure to be like, oh, it's my son's birthday or it's my wife's birthday or we're gonna go on vacation. But like when it came to like little things like, oh, I just want to have a Saturday off just to like stay at home. They don't have that leisure. They literally have to play every day.
Yeah.
Because that's just like who they are. And like that's why I like going to the river. It's because a lot of those guys, I see them there every day.
Still there.
Yeah, to the point where it's like, I don't even feel bad that we have to compete against each other because I know they're trying to provide for their family. And they know I'm trying to make money for myself too.
Yeah.
So it's like a friendly competition. But like with like these up and coming like younger groups and stuff, like especially in this day and age of social media, like, man, there's so many groups and there's so many styles, and like then you see all the like badness of it. Like there's I don't want to drop anything, but like in certain cities there will be like one person who owns like 14 groups. And like they're just trying to like get everything they can, like super greedy.
So that way they can. There's none of that competition stealing from them.
Yeah, so they're like competing with themselves, kind of, and then they'll like underbid just so that they can get the gigs, which like that happens everywhere.
Yeah,
underbidding. But it like what I grew up in was more of like a quality over quantity. Whereas like I'd rather have a gig that pays me really well. That's only like 1 hour versus like playing 3 gigs and not getting paid as much. And then the quality of music's like lackluster. Like I'm just like, I'm not having fun.
No.
You know, that's why I like doing gigs with my trio, because they're quick. We get to like dress differently. We get to like play different music. And at the end of the day, the quality's better. So I'm just like, man, I'd rather do this than mariachi, you know? But like mariachi's always going to be there.
Yeah.
The trio, how long has that been around?
Weirdly enough, it pretty much formed because of the Houston thing, because of the opera. What had happened was, so all 3 of us individually wanted to go do this thing, but I messaged the guy that was in charge of the opera house, and he was like, I think you'd have a better chance if y'all came as 3, because we're looking for 3 guys. And like all the people who went to audition were like by themselves.
Right.
I think we were like one of the only ones that went in as 3 guys.
Right.
So we went in. We played like Cihualteco, Malagueña, and Javier Martinez was there, the son of Pepe.
Yeah.
And they liked it, and then they were like, okay, we'll let you know, and we left. And after that, I text the guys. I was like, hey man, like we got the part, like should we give ourselves a name? Like, are they just gonna put like each of our names individually, or should we kind of like make it an entity? So we had discussed it, and I was like, okay, well, what should we name it? And Carlton was like, oh, whatever y'all decide, I'm cool with, you know. So that was already like easy enough. So it was just in between me and Israel. And Israel liked Chapala, which is a beautiful name. It's a beautiful lake, I believe. So he was like Trio Chapala, which is, it sounds cool too. I like it. And so I had come up with a few different names, and then I was like, well, what about Trio Chapultepec? And so then they were like, oh, well, like, why that name?
Yeah.
And which always goes back to my long story, which involves the director from Texas State, John Lopez, and his dad, who had a group called Mariachi Chapultepec in San Antonio. And then from there, there was an accident where a few of them died in a fire. And so a lot of my mentors made a new group called Nuevo Chapultepec, which like had Mike and Carlos and Ismael and a lot of guys that I looked up to and taught me a lot. So I always liked that name, like Mariachi Chapultepec and then Nuevo Chapultepec. And then I was like, well, I'm just going to put it as the trio now, you know? And then I always had people be like, oh man, like I wanted that name. Or like I wanted to do this or that, and then people were like, "Oh, well, John's gonna say something," or Ismael, his brother owned Nuevo Chapultepec, maybe he'll say something, and I was like, "Nah, I'm from San Antonio, and I'm not like literally stealing the name like Mariachi Chapultepec or Nuevo Chapultepec. It's like Trio Chapultepec. It's like to continue the legacy so that people can see like, oh, it came from this and came from there." So it's like a San Antonio based name for me. Okay. And I actually have the album. I remember they were like, "Oh yeah, that's his dad's group," and I was like, "Yeah, that's cool." I didn't know he was the son.
Well, yeah. I always wondered where you got that name from.
Yeah,
that's pretty interesting.
A lot of people are like, "Oh, is it because y'all are from like Chapultepec or y'all like this the park and whatnot?" I'm like, "No, right. Just it came from a long line of San Antonio musicians for me."
Yeah, that's cool.
You all have done some gigs, all right, as a trio.
Yeah, I've done a few of them. We actually did a few for Cynthia Munoz. She would call me up and she liked, the trio, and she actually helped us with one of the videos that's on YouTube.
Yeah, that's a cool video, man.
And so we kept doing videos, and then she would call us for some gigs with some like clients and stuff. And then we have a guy in Houston who always calls us for gigs. He's like our like not a manager, but he's just like our contact in Houston for Houston gigs. So that's always cool. But all the gigs that we do are pretty cool. Usually I tell the guys to take like more instruments. I'm like, we'll like switch off. So like if we play something that has a violin or something that doesn't, we'll like accommodate.
That's cool about you guys too. Y'all play multiple instruments.
Yeah, we try to make it so like maybe they don't want something with violin.
Yeah.
But then we have people that are like, we want cumbias, and I'm just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Accordion. Who plays the accordion? Israel?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, he likes the accordion.
Yeah.
You were a vocal finalist, right, Vince?
Yeah.
Only once?
I have no idea how that happened, by the way.
Did you submit the video? Do you remember doing that?
Yes. I do remember that. So, our director at the time at San Antonio College, he was like, "Oh, you're going to do it. Like, you're going to submit. Whether you fail or not, you're going to do it."
Okay.
So I was like, okay. So I think like 4 or 5 of us tried out to do it. And at the end, it only became 2 of us that like tried it. And it was me and Robert. And so he did his song and I did mine. And I just remember she had given me a list of songs. She's like, these are the songs that you can pick from unless you have like one that you really want to do. And so I picked one and I was like, I like that one. I'll do that one. Why not? So I would like study it and practice it with her. But I was preparing to leave to China. So I didn't really have time to like think about it. And so like literally we recorded it like a day or two before I had to leave. Like I recorded it and I was like, okay, I gotta go. Like I'll see you. I gotta go home and pack and get ready. So I did all that and then I forgot about it. Like I straight up forgot that I had submitted. And so like when we came back from China, a week or two passed and then I got like a thing that was like, hey, you're a finalist. And I was like,
Dang.
what? I was like, what? How did that happen? That can't be right. You know?
Dang. I was shocked that you even auditioned. I saw your name on the list.
Uh-huh.
I was like, dang, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
I want to do this. No, but I was there. I saw that. Well, I mean, but you all competed the same year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We
And,
competed against each other. I was like, dude, you're gonna freaking kill it, man. And you were like, no, you're gonna kill it, man.
Yeah, that's the motivation I'm talking about. I like that.
Yeah.
Your song, what was it? What was the name? I forgot.
Del altar a la tumba.
That's
Jose
a badass
Jose.
song, man.
It had a little monologue, right?
Jose.
I made that monologue up.
Yeah, you
you
told me
made
that.
it?
I was like, what?
Yeah.
You made it up. And they
Yep.
still didn't want to give you first place. Who got first place that year? College.
Her name was Beatriz. I forget her last name, but she's from California.
Oh,
She's-
okay, yeah.
She's a really good singer, though.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, she's a really, really good singer.
Yeah, I think I got a video of you, dude.
No, please.
We'll put it on the Instagram.
But it was a cool
Program.
experience. I just feel like I wasn't comfortable being on stage like that. Like it just wasn't my vibe. I don't know why. Like I just like all the movements and walking and like being a really hardcore performer. Like I get it, but I just don't feel comfortable doing it. I'm more of a like backyard, just like they want el rey, you know, just do it real quick, you know,
Do you think you could do that maybe?
like performing.
Yeah, like
Be a
that,
singer.
something like that.
I mean, we had no choice to when we did the opera, like to be
Oh,
on
yeah.
stage and like look real clean.
Hey, but
and
that was-
proper and stuff like that.
That was
It's
really
just-
cool.
Yeah, but it's different when you're doing like those vocal compositions. Like
Yeah.
it's just like, have you ever seen like dogs when they do like the best in show?
Oh yeah,
Like
yeah.
how
Yeah.
they make them like walk a certain way, and you have to like look at all of their measurements and stuff.
Mm.
I always felt like that's how it felt to me. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
never really liked it.
Yeah.
I was like, you should just judge them on their voice, not like their appearance or like their movements and whatnot. But obviously that does go into judging because like you want somebody that has charisma. You want somebody that like, you know, does their job well and stuff like that.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Like I always watched when Carlton won. And
Mhm.
yeah, he's just like owning the stage and he's just like all that stuff. And then I've seen the video of Israel when he got second place. And yeah, he knocked it out of the park when he
Wait,
did
he
that
got
one.
second?
Yeah,
When was this?
I mean he was still
Man, he
in
was-
like high school.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
I didn't even
he's-
know that.
He sounds like way better than he did then.
Now?
Yeah,
Yeah. He's always been a good vocalist. But
yeah,
yeah. Yeah, that's true.
but yeah, it's cool because like with the group, it's such like it's a good balance because I have like Carlton, who's like an amazing musician and a good vocalist, great vocalist, and then you have Israel, who's also a great vocalist and a good musician, and then me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can hold note, I guess, but it's not like anything grand.
I mean,
like
you
that.
sound good.
But at the same time, it's just like I usually am the one that picks up the weight when it comes to like, okay, well, let's do like an arrangement and stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
Cool. Yeah, that's
But
good.
I mean, like we all contribute. It's very like 33, 33, 33. You know? Like I'll do something and I'm like, y'all guys like it? Y'all can tell me no. And they'll be like, no, we should do this instead. So that way, like it meshes better.
Uh-huh.
You know? Because if you just have one person running the ship, it can get tedious.
I've always been a fan of that style. Whenever I was the section leader at Texas State, that's how I was, man. Like, I wasn't, pointing the finger telling people what to do or anything. Like,
Yeah.
but when other people in other sections were doing the same, when we're doing that, I was like, nah, man, just,
Yeah.
get everybody's opinion and we work together and let's bang this thing out,
Matt would always ask me, hey, how do we do this?
How do you play G?
You're like, how do you read this rhythm?
Oh, I can't read. I can't read at all.
You know,
you don't read music?
when
Uh-uh.
you know, going back to that though, like I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm not as educated when it comes to like music or anything. You know, so I would always pick people's brains. You know, so like if you know Ivan, he's more educated in music theory or stuff like that. I'll ask him like, you know, hey, what do you think would sound better in your mind? You know, like what should we do here? Or as far as chords, what chords would sound better too? So like as a section leader, I think that's your job to kind of acknowledge that, you know, the talent and that you have, you know, or like a leader in anything, you know,
Yeah.
acknowledge what you have and kind of use it. You know, it's a tool. So anything that would make it better.
Yeah, man. For
So
sure.
I'm a fan of that style for sure. I like that.
Splitting up. I mean, that's the way I learned mariachi music was through music. Because I mean, I started in high school, right, in the valley. And you know, people see the schools in the valley compete, and they sound good, and they do. But the reason for that is because it's kind of drilled into them. Some areas have it from middle school. Some cities in the valley, they'll learn the music, how to read the music, and that's kind of basically what it's like throughout most of the valley. It's the music, and some it depends on the director. You know, if they understand it themselves, so they can try to show you interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
But not all of them do, because not all of them play mariachi.
Yeah.
So that's why also you'll hear a lot of things that sound too structured, too metronome, too squared,
Mm-hmm.
and so I like I said, I learned through the music, so I learned how to sight read very well with in mariachi or guitar, guitarron. But then when I came over here and started doing gigs, my ear wasn't as good to pick things up just like that uh having to without having the music and that. But over the years, you know, it got better, it got easier. So I'm kind of well balanced more now. Actually, honestly, I think my ear is better than my sight reading, because I haven't sight read mariachi music in years, because I haven't had to. But so you never learned how to read mariachi music?
I mean, I can read, but like really basic stuff, and it's easier for me to watch somebody play it, and I'll just read the stuff, and I can be like, oh, you played that wrong, you know. But like if they give it to me and I haven't heard it, I usually have trouble like reading it. So usually I need somebody else to be like, oh, just do this, and I'll be like, oh, okay, I got you. Like that's easier for me to just look at them and be like, okay, you know.
Yeah.
What do you want to do when you grow up?
I mean,
How old are you, Vince? I
I'm
never even asked that.
26.
26.
Yeah, about to be 27 in February.
Wow.
An old man.
Yeah.
Oh, so wait, who's old? Carlton's older.
Yeah.
Like
By like a few years, I believe. I think he's about to be 30.
be 30.
Oof.
It's like oof. No, yeah, I think yeah, it's gonna be 30. 26. Uh, so what do you want to be when you grow up? Firefighter, police officer.
No, honestly, I want to continue my stuff in music. I don't know where it's gonna go, honestly. I want to finish school for sure. But I just like teaching, but I like just playing too, you know. I don't want to do like weekend gigs all my life, you know.
Yeah.
But if I had a
That's fair.
steady job that was music, then that would be super helpful, you know. Whether it's like arranging or like starting my own little recording studio or something. Um, just something that can make me an income. I prefer to work at home, but like I said, I don't mind like doing stuff out of that, you know, like lessons. But I mean, lessons to me have always just been like really weird because I still feel like I can't give myself the title of professional. Like, you know, like you never know where that gray line is to like be a professional. Like growing up,
Right.
it was always like, unless you're in Vargas, you're not a professional, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now that I'm like older and I have all these like accolades and stuff, it's just like, well, at what point can I call myself a professional? And at what point can I like charge a professional like fee for like my lessons or for my recordings or for stuff like that.
Right.
So I always try to like build my resume rather than like charge people like a lot, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like, you actually passed me one of your students. They had called you to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I started teaching this girl in Kyle. And yeah, like like my lessons aren't like anything crazy, you know. I'm just like, let me see how you play, and I usually put them like, okay, this is where you're at, and like how to improve them, you know. And I try to like teach them everything I can in one lesson. I'm like, everything I teach you today, you don't need to call me back. You literally just need to practice this every day. The only reason they call you back for the second or third lesson is because they want somebody to yell at them. They need somebody to yell at them.
Yeah.
Like that's humans have that like structure to be like, I need somebody to tell me, like to motivate me.
That's true.
So like I always tell like most of my students like, no, I just need to teach you once. After that, you should really just be asking me like questions every once in a while, you know? But if you really want like one-on-one lessons, then, you know, do it. So I never really believed in stuff like that because I used to take lessons with like several people. And, you know, like after a while, I was just like, not that it's redundant, but the ideas always kind of like are the same.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I take 5 lessons with 5 different people, that first lesson might be different in the sense that one wants to teach me their style and one might want to teach me like the basics and one might, but eventually it all blends together to where it's more like a preference.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like, you know, a lot of people, they'll be like, oh, Vince, how would you play this? Or how would you do this? Or how would you do this? And I'm like, well, there's like 20 ways I can play it. But how do you want to play it? And why do you want to play it like that? So I try to like make them be more like philosophical with their music.
Okay. Cool. Yeah.
And I'm just like, at the end of the day, just practice.
That's good, dude, because I do shit and without thinking about why I do it or what, you know, what reason I have. And the one who puts a finger on that for me, highlights it, is like my boss, Adolf. He's like, why are you doing that? Like it's not necessarily like you shouldn't do this or whatnot, but what are you doing that for? You know, and then most of the stuff he wants is just got to make musical sense. Do whatever the fuck you want. Just make musical sense. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you ever find yourself teaching these kids, these students, how to play, but it's not how you play?
Yeah, all the time.
You're like, don't do what I do.
Yeah, that's like...
Yeah, I do that. I'm like, I'm going to teach you how to play, and if you ever see me playing, just don't bring it up. Don't mention it.
Which is like, it's like the highest form of hypocrisy for me because, you know, like, you know, then they look at me like, well, then why do you do it? Like, why do you play that way then? And I'm like, well, that's just me being me, you know?
Yeah.
I want you to be you. I don't want you to be me. That's what it comes down to. I'm like, you practice what I tell you so you can get exercises done and get better. But like past that, you're like you're like a what is it? Like an unleashed horse. Like you can do whatever you want after you've learned all that stuff.
Right.
So just do whatever you want, and you're gonna find people that don't like it, and you're gonna find people that do. Stick with those people. Stick with the people who make you happy. That's just, at the end of the day, that's what it is. Because I've played in groups where like, yeah, they make better money, but it's just like, and then you're with groups that like, you're like, well, we don't make as much money, but like, I'm always jamming with them. You know, we're always having fun.
Yeah.
Like you guys.
That's how it was.
We do pretty good with money.
Yeah. That's how it was.
I don't know how much outside pays you, but
dang. That's how it was when I was in Trovadores, dude. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna put it on here. We didn't make much money, dude. And you know, especially the first few months.
Yeah, no, I remember.
But I always had fun, dude, because I'm playing with like you guys, man.
Yeah.
The best armonia I've ever been a part of. So.
Oh, stop.
That was fucking badass.
Stop basting it.
Stop it, Matt, because you're pissing me off.
Dude, I remember the first time I played with you, actually, it was like you said, we were getting ready for a school event, but it was like a concert setting. And Israel he was playing harp, right?
Yeah.
So I thought it was you at first, but you were on guitar.
Uh-huh.
You were on guitar, and it was like looking, I was like, man, this is cool. Even though Israel was trying his best on Hard Day, he didn't really know much, right?
And then we would take you to Morelias on
Yeah,
Sundays,
dude.
and like
I learned so much with you guys.
Those are my favorite types of gigs. Is like you don't have to ask people for repertoire. You're just like, hey, let's just play this song and let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
And usually, yeah,
you guys kicked my ass, bro.
Nah,
every day, man. But I liked it. Like how you will go back to humans. We look for somebody to tell you that you suck or like that motivate you in some way.
Not everybody's like that though. Like there's some people who really want to be like motivated through like positive light, and I totally get it. Like I'm very. Yeah. I try to be gentle with like certain people, just like they're.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying like you guys were always like, oh, you suck, but like you guys helped me, but like you guys were actually teaching me too at the same time, and y'all motivated me to like be better,
Yeah, and it's the same thing with me. Like whenever I'm playing with anybody, I never think like, oh, do it my way, or like I'm better or like anything like that. Like if I'm playing a song and like literally it and I don't know it, I'll like literally look at you and be like, tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I like with compadres, there's songs that y'all do, and I'm just like looking at Alexis, and I'm like, dude, I'm following you. Like, you're the captain here.
Yeah.
I always look at Vince every time before we start. I'm the captain now.
Yeah,
I'm the captain.
He's like, yes.
Tom Cruise.
No, yeah, when we do those narco corridos, and we'll do stuff that people don't ask for, or we'll do stuff different, like Senora Senora.
Yeah,
The way we do it, nobody freaking does that intro. You got anything to say? Anything you want to sing? Anything you want to play? Some of your world famous skills.
not even. This is it. Like literally, it's all just like hand shapes that I learned, and then I just like use them. But anything to plug? Are you saying?
Let me start this over. So, do you have any plugs that you would like to let our listeners know that someone else might have not done? Cut that out.
No. Yeah. So next week we're going to Houston to record a CD with an opera singer that we met in Houston called Cecilia Durante, and my bad, Duarte. Sorry. And she's an amazing singer. She's like, out of all the singers that we met in Houston, she was like one of the ones that was like, I love trio and I love this, and like we grew a bond, and then all of a sudden it became, hey, we should do a CD. And at first it was like, are you serious? And then like as the year went on, she called us like, remember how I wanted to do a CD? Like it's happening. And I was like, oh man, like that's so cool. So we're gonna record that next week, and it should be out sometime next year, like July maybe.
That's cool, dude.
Yeah, we're.
You ever done anything like that?
Huh?
You ever done something like that before?
Not to this degree. So like I know people who do like recordings here in like studios. They'll do like tracks for like Tecano singers and stuff. But she like, so she like semi won a Grammy, and the producer she got for the CD has like a Grammy.
Oh, okay.
So
dang, dude. Oh, hell yeah, man.
She raised a lot of money to like make this happen. So like I have my fingers crossed that it'll be successful, and I'm trying to push it.
I'm sure it will, man.
You can go to the Grammys.
I don't even care if people are like, man, it sucks. I'm just like, at least you listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this podcast.
I'm going to be in line waiting to buy it.
All the 1-star reviews we gotten.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all got 1-star reviews?
Yeah, we got a 1-star.
I
don't know.
It doesn't say.
Oh,
they're from Cambodia. I don't know.
I actually checked my my 2020 wrapped up.
Oh,
I don't use my Spotify like ever. So like it right away it was like #1 podcast you guys.
Chingon.
Because y'all are the only podcast
I saw mine, and I think my top artist was Ramon Ayala. And 2 was like Shawn Mendes. But my podcast #1 is Views. It's David Dobrik, a YouTube creator. But then #2 was Charro Beans.
Oh really?
Yeah, but I haven't listened to them in months. It's just that's how it shows how much I listen to podcasts. Yeah. Ours wasn't even in the top 5.
Shit.
I don't listen to it because
We
we
go through
record it and then I listen back 2 hours editing it and then uploading it.
Like,
By the time it comes out,
burnt
I
out.
I'm like, listen to the fourth time.
How do you do that? I haven't done that before on the Spotify thing. How do I
just
get
pops
there?
up when you open it.
Or, open Spotify, it will show like 2020 Wrapped or something like in the app. And you just click on it and it'll show you your whole year.
Oh,
what you listen to.
Check that out. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting actually.
But yeah, Vince has a album coming out with the trio, with opera singers, with when did you say that was coming out in July?
Hopefully in July, and then we're gonna be traveling to Japan, and then we're gonna be doing the operas again like next year and the year after that. So.
Are you gonna play at the Olympics?
No, not again.
No.
Cool.
You're like, am I?
No.
Maybe.
No. It's like somewhere. It's somewhere completely different in like a rural area of Japan.
At the
That's
farms.
cool, man.
So
Play for some farmers in Japan.
Actually, in China, we played for like just like civilians that were walking through, and they loved it. It's cool to see how people like bond over music.
Mm.
That's also like a really good thing for me to do. Is to like share mariachi. I don't want to like go and like teach mariachi in China, but I mean like I like to go over there and play for them, and they enjoy it.
Yeah,
I think it's really cool. It's genuine.
Yeah.
it's the power of music, man.
Well, so do you have anything to say, Matt?
Nothing. Just thanks for coming, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for doing this.
Well, I mean, I don't really have a choice. I'm gonna play with Alexis.
Yeah, well, you're coming here anyways.
Yeah.
Well, you might as well.
But it was good to see you again, man. It's been a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, and then you're gonna disappear for another 2 months.
Hey, do y'all play the outro at the end?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's in La, right?
It's same progression.
I was about to say, is it going down right now?
Yeah, you can start it right there. After I do my lick.
Edit that. But so this has been episode 25 of Los Mariachi Sagas. I want to thank Vince for coming out, being our guest.
Now we gotta go work.
Now we gotta go work until like 2 a.m. All right, we'll see you guys.
See ya.
Bye.
Mariachi Sagas.